Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Just going out a little bit out on a limb here, but you just got to say what you think, I guess. We'll see. So today we're going to be talking about, again, the vMix Obtanium system. vMix, in fact, just dropped a new tutorial on that. Well, maybe not a tutorial, but an explanation of that, a video on YouTube last night after the Funtime live show. So this is sort of a follow-up to that. So hang around. We'll get started on that in just a minute. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
We're the streaming idiots, having the time. With Tom Sinclair guiding, we're feeling so fine. vMix on the screen, we're ready to play. Custom built PCs, taking tech to the fray. Making live production feel like a breeze. Got the rhythm pumping, we do it with ease. From setups to transitions, we're flying high. In the world of streaming, we're touching the sky. Streaming idiots, we're living the dream. With tech support in the mix, we're a winning team. Tom Sinclair's a man, bringing us live in our biggest adventure. The future is bright. Lights, camera, action, the stage is set. From podcasts to webinars, we're never upset. Tech at our fingertips, the power so real. Loading up the content, let the viewers feel. Building connections, we're breaking the mold. Every frame a story, every tale told. In this vibrant world, we're living with flair. Streaming idiots unite, let's take it from here. Streaming idiots, streaming idiots. We're living the dream, you're living the dream. We take support in the mix. Oh, we're a winning team. Tom Sinclair's a man, bringing us live in our vMix adventure. The future is bright. We got tips and tricks all wrapped in a show. In our extra fun, let the good times flow. From sports to the arts, we're taking the lead. With vMix by our side, there's nothing we need. Troubleshooting smoothly, no hassle or fuss. In the world of tech, we're igniting the buzz. Streaming idiots, we're living the dream. It's a support in the mix. We're a winning team. Tom Sinclair's a man, bringing us live in our biggest adventure. The future is bright. So here's to the journey. Let's raise a toast for Tom Sinclair and the team we love most. Streaming idiots, forever we're ruling the scene. With vMix and support, here living the dream. We're the streaming idiots.
All right. Testing 1, 2, 3. Let's see, this thing is working. Camera. Yep. It's a little low. Hang on. Excuse me. I popped a snack in my mouth, which was the wrong thing to do. So let's go there. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Do you save when you do an incremental change? That's what I meant to go with right there. Hello, Rick. Glad to see you. Glad to have you. Have Paul Richards paused on another monitor? Oh my gosh. Well, at least you got the right guy paused and the right guy live. No, Paul's a good guy. Paul's a good guy. He's done very well. He's done very, very well. I hope that's still the case. I haven't talked to him in a while. I probably need to just touch base with him. So do you ever make incremental saves during your show? You make a little tweak on something, a little tweak on something else, and you save it right then and there? I would. I do. Because you just never know. You never know. Now, I was going to say you just never know because power could go out anytime, and it could, but we're on battery backup here, at least for the internet and this PC, and I think this monitor. So we could continue to go, so you don't know. Yes, that's good. Good thought. Good thought. You know, I was thinking earlier, I've got a PC, an Obsidian back here. I mean, Obtanium, that I'm getting ready to ship off. And I thought, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and hide some stuff on there so that I can go get it later if I need it, if they get things really, really fouled up. There ought to be a hidden subdirectory of Tom's secret stuff. Yeah, the secret stuff, the good stuff, the good stuff. All right, let's see. We've got a couple seconds here, so let's get ready for the show because we're going to do the big intro. Hello, Michael Quist. Good to see you. Glad to have you. Let's see, is he going to pop up on the vMix? There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. It's funny because the comments on the YouTube, because I have a YouTube window up, those come up, you know, as soon as you post them, I guess. And then it takes vMix a second, sometimes a couple, 3 seconds to vMix Social, that is, to register that those comments have actually existed. So there you go. So hat tip. All right, so let's see. Let's get this show on the road. We know how to do that. We are experts in the field. So here we go. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And again, hat tip to Martin K for being such a fine guy and creating that kind of eclectic mix. Gee whiz, 6 years ago maybe. Hello Otis, glad to have you. Glad you're here. So today we're going to have our last comment, at least for a while, on the vMix Obtanium Reference System. The whole reason, well, not the whole reason, half the reason that we're talking about it again today is that vMix dropped a video about it last night. Not really a tutorial, more of an explanation that if you're going to do an Obtanium build, you need to know what you're doing. And having done an oodle of them, an oodle is kind of a little bit more than a gaggle. Having done an oodle of them, I can tell you, yes, for somebody that builds PCs, building a server was a learning curve. And some of the learning curve, I guess I expected, hey, Bill, welcome. Good to see you. Glad to have you. Some of the learning curve I expected, and some of it took me completely off guard. And I just got even more completely off guard last night as I was doing a little bit of research. Actually, was I doing research or did it just stumble across my path? You know, sometimes knowledge just stumbles across your path, and it's up to you to turn it into wisdom. So that's what we're doing today. You can see this guy in the background right there. I've got the configuration screen for the PCIe Express lanes, slots and lanes. Make sure that's configured right. Want to make sure I've got all 16 lanes configured and not using an automatic setting of some kind. The motherboard, the Gigabyte MW83-RP0, that's the make and model of the motherboard, is a server motherboard intended for use only with the Zeon processors. In fact, I think there are 4 different series, a 2400, a 3400, a 2500, and a 3500. We have currently, I think we're using the 2565X. Well, I don't have it in front of me. It's on the clipboard over there. And that doesn't allow us to use all of the lanes. This is a diagram of the CPU, and you can see, of the motherboard, you can see the CPU big in pink in the middle. surrounded by 4 sticks of orange RAM. And then the green slots are the slots 7, 6, 5, 4 are the slots that are, let me rephrase that. 6, 5, 4 are the slots that are not enabled in this particular application using the 2465X. Only slots 7, they're at the top in the green, and slots 3, 2, and 1 are there. And so, yeah. So that's, but anyways, you know that, you can move forward, you can figure out how you're going to organize everything, but it does give you 3 capture slots. That's great. Unless you have a double-size capture card, like the Blackmagic 8K, has a little daughter card that mounts to it. But the good news is you can configure all of those slots to be X16 slots, so you can put that double card down at the bottom in PCIe slot 1, because there's a little space there below it for the daughter card to rest, because there is no slot there, but there is a backplate cutout, so it does allow you that. So those are the little things that you just, you kind of discover along the way. But the very first time I built one of these back in April, I discovered along the way that this motherboard and the Nvidia RTX 4080 Super graphics card and Windows 11 version 25, H1, H2, whatever, are a no-go. It won't boot. I mean, I can configure everything and then do the graphics card driver, and it just won't boot after that. Spent dozens of emails with Gigabyte tech support over that. And finally they said, well, you know what? That is kind of a known problem with this motherboard and that operating system and that driver. So you're going to have to use an older version of the Windows. Not an older version of the driver, and not some sort of change to the BIOS on the card, but you're going to have to use a different version of Windows. Not version 24H whatever, but 23H2. And I said, okay, that was, again, last April. And as I built these along the way, the BIOS versions, kind of updated. And I think vMix in their instructions says that you want BIOS version R9, and I think they're up to BIOS version R12, but it doesn't fix the problem. But the reason that this is an issue is it came across my radar last night that Windows version 23H2 is end of life. In fact, it was end of life last year in November 11th. I guess they call it end of service, where you can't get any more updates. I mean, obviously you can continue to still use it, but you can't update the operating system. And there doesn't appear to be a path forward with Windows 11 version 25 or 24 with this motherboard and Nvidia. So the question becomes, is now the vMix Obtanium Reference System that vMix spent a long time putting together, because the Obsidian system, you remember the X299 system, was there for a long time, and I built lots of those too. Those were great little systems, not little but big, and very durable. But it looks like the Obtanium may have to go back to the drawing board to fix this issue. I can't see that anybody is going to want to use a 2-year-old operating system with vMix. In fact, the question comes up to me, can vMix, it's working perfectly today with vMix 29. But what about vMix 30, vMix 31, vMix 32, something that that the vMix guys are expecting to find in Windows that doesn't exist in Windows 23H2? Will there be a workaround for that? Is that going to be part of vMix for the future is to make sure that it's always compatible with 23H2. What if there are new features in Windows that are just, gaggle features? Is vMix going to hold back from implementing those because they won't work with 23H2? Or maybe the real culprit is not vMix or the motherboard or the operating system. Maybe it's the Nvidia driver, because that's when everything goes south, when you attempt to install the Nvidia driver. Actually, you can install the driver, and as the driver is installing, the PC reboots. Well, it doesn't reboot. It tries to reboot, but it can't, because it won't. It stops. And you can revert back. You can do a system restore and go back to the time before you installed that driver, but you can't work with that driver. So is there a different graphic card? There's maybe a 5080, 5090, maybe a 6090, maybe a 7090 coming out in the future. Maybe not a consumer card, but use a business card. That's an Nvidia card. I know vMix has said that they want to keep this affordable, but think about it. Anybody that's using 16 cameras or a handful, 6 4K 60 cameras, anybody that's using 6 4K 60 cameras has already spent a ton of money. And vMix is not, vMix Pro, the $1,200 version, is not the issue. They've already spent goobs on cameras. Why not spend an extra $500 on whatever it is that keeps the Obtanium from being up to date? The Gigabyte motherboard that they picked out is about $800, maybe a little less. There are other motherboards available. I've got one here that I want to test when I get through building this one. I've still got extra parts on hand to test with and see if there are other graphics cards that would work, or other versions of Windows that would work. I remember reading on a forum, maybe it was the vMix forum, where somebody was building an Obtanium, but they were using a 5060 Ti. I don't know why you'd want to use a 5060 Ti with a server motherboard and a server CPU. But they were using a 5060 Ti, and they were having the same problem with Windows 11 version 25. This is not a recent occurrence. This must have come up in testing with vMix guys. I just can't imagine a situation where this didn't come up. I'm thinking, was there an older version of the BIOS maybe that worked? But they say, in their notes, let's see, we've got notes here. Can we bring them up? They say in their notes that, here's the Obtanium details. And we're going to scroll through this. 2565X, my apologies for improper use before. And that they want a BIOS that's R7 or higher. Well, the motherboard that I've got back here started out as an R7. And it was a no-go there. I thought, oh, maybe I can update the BIOS, and that's going to unlock this guy. But it didn't. We have a fully working system here, and I've locked it down to Windows 23H2. But I don't think that's good practice. Basically, we've got a kiosk machine back here that will run as is. It'll do vMix 29 beautifully. It'll do Windows 11 23 H2, probably okay, unless there's a problem, unless there's a security violation or something. And it will assumably do the Nvidia RTX 4080 Super on into the future, unless there's a need for a driver update. And then, does that become a problem? Lots of unknowns. I mean, there are always unknowns in building PCs. There are always unknowns in building PCs. And that's why those of us that do it, we find a sweet spot with motherboard and CPU and GPU and RAM and, all that stuff. And with that sweet spot, we say, hey, we can have a machine here that's going to perform the way we expect it to perform consistently. And it's not going to need a bunch of tech support because it's got some flakiness to it. The machines that I've built with this spec have all sorts of notes all over them. Do not update Windows. We've disabled the update. We've put in a helper program that prevents you from updating. We put it on the splash screen. We put it on the desktop. And we can assume that somebody won't do it. I mean, I even put a note on the system that says, do not update this past 23H2 because bad things will happen. The PC will not boot. It's not good practice, but folks need to know what the downside is rather than just telling them don't do something. We say this is why you don't do something, because bad things will happen. But I guess the summation for me is that I think vMix needs to take another look at the Obtanium system. And as to which piece they take a look at, well, there are only two pieces. There's the motherboard and CPU, or the graphics card. And which of those two is the one that's holding this back? The 4080 Super is being used everywhere. Is there a problem with the 4080 Super that only happens when you put it on a server motherboard? I've got a different server motherboard here, and I've got an extra 4080 Super, and I've got an extra Zeon processor, and I'll try it with that motherboard. I did a while back, and I got sidetracked and never finished testing it. I should have, but as soon as I get done with these 9 PCs here, we will give that another try and see what we can do. I really like the motherboard. Now that I've had a chance to use it, I find it to be really easy to work with because I found it easy to work with, because I've learned the ins and outs of it, and I would hate to sacrifice that knowledge. Just little things on how to update the BIOS. Little things like it's a server motherboard, so it's going to essentially be running 2 operating systems. Essentially, it's 2 computers. It's a big computer, and then it's a little teeny computer. And the little teeny computer you can get access to and use it to tweak the big computer. For example, in the BIOS, which you see over my shoulder, there is no facility, there is no app, there is no method to adjust the fan curve. So when I fire this sucker up, the fans are screaming. The motherboard doesn't have a liquid cooler pump connection. It has like a zillion system fan connections and 1 CPU fan connection. The CPU fan connection is connected to the fans for the water cooler. Silverstone makes a lovely case, and vMix did a great job in picking out this case because the water cooler fits into the case and is made by the same company and has all the things you need to have. You can see right over there, that big black thing, that's where the CPU goes. And the cooler literally bolts down to it with these Torx bolts. It's not coming off of there. But in order to change the fan curve, you have to go into this little teeny computer that's on the motherboard that has a whole different way. In fact, you have to use a different computer and go to the IP address for that computer to get into the program for this. Can I show you that? Let's see if I can show you that real quick. 192.168.1.186. Let's see if it'll come up. It should. Oh, it's not online. It's not online. Let me connect. Let's see if it'll come up. We'll give it a chance. There we go. And the password is, the password is a password. It is a password. I got to get my cheat sheet for this one. The password is actually printed on the label on the box. The password is assigned at birth. And I'm going to tell you what it is, because it is PG 685.1.0.0.0.74. And let's see if we can get in at that point. There we go. So this is the web interface for that guy. And this is just a little teeny computer running on that computer. And built into it in settings allows me to find the fan profile. Woohoo! And I have made my own fan profile so that it ramps up and ramps down. I mean, right now it's running at about 50%, but it'll max out at a 70 if it has to. I've got 1,022 messages received on this. We'll have to go back and see what those are at some point. The motherboard does not have the debug lights on it. It does not have the little display that shows you the 2-digit codes of what's happening with the system as it boots. Those would be nice. But it's a server motherboard. It's intended to be used by people that install 1,000 of these at a time. So it's not intended to be consumer friendly intentionally. I don't know if, let's see if we can see another version of it here. Or maybe here. Yeah, here we go. I don't know if you can see this little black connector right there, but that is the USB 3 connector. And it points sideways. It doesn't point up. So you can't plug anything into it down. And it happens to rest right up near the side of the case. So you're not getting a cable to make that turn. You got to get a 90-degree adapter. It's not a big deal until you don't have a 90-degree adapter. You've got to get a 90-degree adapter. Yeah. It's a generic motherboard. It's not a $1,000 motherboard, $1,200 motherboard, but it is using a $1,000 processor or $1,300 processor, the W4, W5 2565. So it's a low-end server motherboard, I think. I think that's what it is. It's a low-end server motherboard. And for what you need to do with it, it's great. We can look in the BIOS here and see they do not even show you any BIOS older than R11, which came out in September of last year. So they don't want you to use any of the old BIOS. The latest came out Christmas Day, R13. I said R12 earlier. I was wrong. R13. When you look at drivers, generally with a consumer motherboard, you'll see, I don't know, 16 drivers that that need to be installed as part of preparing the motherboard for use. In here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it. And yeah. And that's for all the operating systems. Doesn't matter. And then there's a firmware, but this is the firmware for the for this app right here. It's firmware for this. So there you go. Well, and I'm not even showing you that. Let me go back and show you. Here's the BIOS. Sorry. 3 BIOSes. The oldest version is R11 from September of last year. And drivers, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers. That's it. Very simple, because it's a very simple motherboard for a server purpose. And then we've got firmware to update this section right here, which I don't think I've updated. I think I just left it the way it was. The Gigabyte Management Console is what they call it. Yeah. Yep. And so things like fans, the manual doesn't talk about fans, because the manual is for the motherboard, not necessarily for the little controller computer that lives on the motherboard. A little bit frustrating, but once you know, then you know. You don't have to worry about it. You just deal with it. Rick's asking about Thunderbolt ports. No Thunderbolt ports. No USB-C ports. No connections for that. The case has a nice little connector for USB-C to connect to the motherboard. But the motherboard is like, no, nothing. We know nothing about USB-C. And USB 3 is off the edge over there, hard to get to. Yeah. But once you know what you're dealing with, you can deal with it. Except this Windows 11 23H2 problem. I haven't fixed that or found a fix for that yet with this exact combination of goodies. Hoping for the BIOS update, hoping for something from Gigabyte, and they were kind of like, well, you know. I think the bottom line is we aren't using this in a server application, which is where they sell tens of thousands of these. And so it's kind of like, yeah, you know, they weren't rude. They weren't rude, but they were like, if it doesn't work, we found a way that does work. Unfortunately, it's end of life, but, you know, sorry. What is the age of this board? Can we see what the age of this board is? Is there any information that tells us when this board was created? Probably not. Lots of good information on the board, just not information for us. Continue to look through here. Hold on, bear with me just a second. I spent a lot of time with this. Whew, I thought that was my problem. It wasn't. Okay, getting down to close. Nope, doesn't have any dates. No dates. I could probably find one somewhere else, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for it. Not the way we need to spend our time here. So moving forward, vMix, please address this. Please take another look at it. I know you spent tons of time on it already, and I know you found a workable solution, but as Windows 11 23H2 gathers more and more dust, there's the potential, I think, for it not to work at some point in the future with a later vMix version. That's my concern. That's my concern. And that may not, obviously changing the spec is not going to solve that for all the ones that are out in the field right now. I can only hope that the ones out in the field that are not built by us were locked down. Certainly folks had to realize that. Well, that's it for this part of the show. Let's go to the post show, and we'll have another go at this. What do you think? We can do that. I need to fix that before next time. All right, let me find the chat here. Here we go. All right. So Rick has got, at the DOS prompt, attribute plus H to my secret. I love it. Welcome, Otis. Is there a reason why a lot of vMix show prefers to only use YouTube comments nowadays? They have been doing that for quite a while. At one point, you could use an independent chat. And you could use vMix Social to pull it in. But and I did that for a while. But path of least resistance, path of most reliability is the simpler process. And I think simply to offload the chat to YouTube and say, okay, YouTube, you take it. And there we go. Yeah, that's what I did. Michael Quist, as usual, boils down the question to its most important element. Tom, you write 23H2, but isn't the newest version 25H2? Yes, 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 yes. That is indeed the problem. Hey, Gunnar, glad you're here. Yeah, in order to get a workable system, they had to know. Because it's not like Windows 11 version 24 H1 or 2 or Windows 11 version 25 H1 or 2. It's not like they were using that and it was working and then all of a sudden it stopped working and you had to go back to a previous version of Windows. I think I can't imagine any other scenario than version 23H2 was the operating version. Why that didn't make it into the Obsidian notes, I don't know. Yeah, the system I'm building here is about 13 grand. And, looking to some of the competition, who right now I think is really TriCaster, you buy a TriCaster system, it's locked down. For a while you were buying TriCaster system, and I think they were on Windows XP. Locked down in the background where nobody could see it. Rick is always a kidder, isn't he? All right, Kenny, welcome, Kenny. Glad to have you. Thanks for this. According to ChatGPT, the Gigabyte GENW83 Pro, often written as NW83-Pro, was introduced around 2009. Let's bring up the board here and see. This is a different board. This is the M as in Michael, MW83-RP0. And even if the 0 became an O, it still wouldn't be Pro. So this is the MW83-RP0. Well, let's just see what ChatGPT says about. We'll do AI mode in, what is that, in Google? When was Gigabyte MW83-RP0 released? The Gigabyte MW83-RP0 workstation motherboard, not server, workstation, my bad, was officially announced on March 14th, 2023. It was revealed alongside the MW53-RP0 by Giga Computing, a subsidiary of Gigabyte, to support Intel Xeon W34 and W24 processors. The board was first listed on a major retail site like Newegg Business around November 9th, 2023. Significance: it was marketed as the first workstation platform to support both DDR5 and PCIe 5 technologies. Well, that's a big plus right there. I get that. That's lovely. And then good old AI mode poses another question for us, and it says, what motherboards does the MW83-RP0 use? Well, it doesn't use a motherboard. It is a motherboard. Why are you proposing such a stupid question? So anyway, there we go. There we go on that one. Sorry, I think the model I referenced is a Wi-Fi adapter card, not the motherboard. Aha. Okay. Well, 2009 would be pretty shocking. Fortunately, it wasn't. And that's why they were able to get DDR5 and PCIe 5. Oh. Yeah. So it's not, the motherboard is not old technology. Well, in computer years, I guess it is. You know, it's 3 years old, which is 21 years in computer, 21 years old in computer years. So yeah. But in 2023, what was the OS? Windows 11, 23, H1 and then H2. And somewhere the OS changed. I think it's the OS. I think it's the operating system. I don't blame Gigabyte. I don't blame Nvidia. I blame Microsoft. They changed something in the OS that didn't support a feature somewhere. Maybe we should point our fingers at Nvidia. You know, all of a sudden they spend all this time building processors, GPUs for AI, and they should have been mined in the store. All right, Michael Quest, an idiot's question. What motherboard would you think would handle 25H2 in an Obtanium setup? Any? Well, let's use what we know so far. vMix picked a motherboard, not server, my bad, workstation. A workstation motherboard that supported DDR5 and PCIe 5.0. They wanted something that had, if it's a workstation board, it's going to have tons of PCIe slots. I mean, that's would be the nature of it because it's going to have the horsepower to run them all. So let's see. Let's look at our Gigabyte list and see what's available from Gigabyte today. That would be a board, workstation motherboards. Here we go. We want something for Intel. Let's go with a Xeon. What's the latest Xeon? I don't even know what the latest Xeon is. The 6, the 6300, the W. Let's do W because that's probably their workstation version. There we go. 3400, 2400, 3500, 2500. Still using the Intel W790 chipset. Okay. 2 LAN ports. What is this card? Oh, that's the MW53. Okay. And we want to see how many lanes it can form. This is an ATX format. Here's the 83. This is the one we have. Let's see if we can be a little bit more specific. Chipsets, form factor, LAN speed, LAN ports, DIMM slots. Yeah, that's not helpful. So we basically have in the Intel workstation motherboard line from Gigabyte, we've got these 2. And that one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 PCIe slots. This one's got 7. So this is the latest right here. This is the latest from Gigabyte. Can we do Asus workstation motherboard? We'll go to Asus and see what we can get. Let's get where are we here? Workstation motherboards. This is the one that I have on the shelf. Well, let's see how old that one is. We'll copy that. We'll go here. How old is two to 3 years old in 2026? Remains a current high-end workstation board featuring DDR5 support and PCIe 5.0. It was early 2023 to support the same processors that we're looking at. Well, we'll have to test and see if that one comes back as a problem. Let's go back to our website here. Workstation motherboards. There we go. Price, chipset, form factor, networking, SATA, USB, graphic, Thunderbolt. There's your Thunderbolt, brick, PCI 5. There we go. We'll take that. Memory type, DDR5. We'll take that. Okay, now we've got 7 motherboards. We've got one for $449. Looks like it's got 2 PCIe slots. 2 more PCIe slots there. Bunch of them there. This is that's AMD. Let's go back and go to Windows. I mean Intel. Socket is Intel. Get Get rid of that one. We'll get rid of that one. That'll leave us 2. So it leaves us the W790 Ace and the Sage SE. And I think this one, let's go to that one for a second. That's $899. That's a little bit more than the Gigabyte one. CEB, that's the supersize ATX, PCIe 5, and we already know it has the RAM requirement. So let's see when that one was released. Roughly 3 years old, announced February 2023. So all these guys may have the same problem. Asus Gigabyte. Asus is generally the motherboards that we use. We've had the least amount of problems with them, and they're really, really flexible, and I think a good price. What does the Ace have? I think we were just there, but let's go back and look for just a second. 2, 4, 5. So if you got one for a CPU, I mean one for a GPU, that only leaves 2 slots left. So that's the problem I think vMix was running into, is they said, okay, we've got this one here, but for $100 less, you can get the Gigabyte one and get one more usable port versus spending this much. And the question becomes, are all these ports usable? And the user, not the ports, but the slots, PCIe slots. But the PCIe slot usability is probably based a lot too on the CPU you use. I mean, you may have 7 slots, but you may not be able to use them all. Let's go to the tech specs and see for a second. Memory, graphics, expansion slots. All right, we've got 7 for the Series 2400 processors. Oh, no, sorry. We've got 7 for the 3400 and 4 for the 2400. And that's what the Gigabyte has right now, is 4. But as I recall, the slots that were enabled, one of them might have been blocked by a graphics card. Okay, well, that's interesting. Interesting. I'll never forget how Microsoft tried to sabotage his show with a firewall update that killed his NDI incoming streams. Well, you know, Michael, I have a friend that works for Microsoft, and they were talking about you and how they couldn't wait to get you. So I'm just saying. Michael Graves, welcome. Good to see you. Glad to have you. Do they use the same chipset? Chipset generations often track motherboard generations. Yes, good point. Let's pop back to that one for just a second. And we can see that this is right here, W790. And we'll go back further than that. Well, maybe we'll just do it again. Workstation. Yes, I know I've misspelled it, but it still works. So here is the test chipset. Intel, don't care about that. DDR5, it's not even on the list. Expansion slots, PCI Express. AGP, oh my gosh, how long has it been since we've used that? Yeah, this is not helpful, Google. Don't even waste your time with it. Okay, looks like there is an LG A1851. Yeah, I don't think that's enough horsepower. It also may be that the AMD chipset may work. Sorry, I misspoke. That the AMD Threadripper may be the CPU that we're looking for. Well, we could play around with this all day, but I don't think we're going to find the one that we need today. And this is the problem that vMix had to do, you know, is compare specs, and then they had to go out and buy the gear. You know, maybe find it on eBay and test it from there. The motherboard I've got back here for testing is something I bought for, you know, 50 cents on the dollar on eBay. And somehow I ended up with an extra CPU cooler that is that plate style. And I happen to have an extra Zeon chip around. Oh, I don't have any RAM. That's what I need. I need to get some RAM. Well, it sounds like I need to get back to work here, guys. I do appreciate y'all tuning in for my ramblings and my thoughts. Oh, I do have a thought for next week for those of you that might be interested in just sort of a group chat. Now, and I don't mean a chat, I mean a roundtable kind of chat. If you're interested, shoot me an email, and let me get my email address in there, because it may be somebody that's not watching right now. So, well, I guess it doesn't matter. What is the name of the company? Eastern Shore Broadcasting. Eastern Shore Broadcasting. Yep, there we go. So put that in your thoughts as to whether or not you're interested. I like the way they break that up. Or broadcasting, or GCOM. Kenny says, out of my knowledge, our chat inquiry suggests as you say, leave it alone. Do not upgrade OS or use Windows Server 20. You know, I thought about the Windows Server 2022, and I could try that for free. Good idea. Good idea. Leave it alone. Don't upgrade. That ought to be part of the Obtanium notes. You know, you're going to run into this problem. Don't upgrade. We'll make sure that all future vMixes work with this OS. Got it. Got it. Well, I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful week ahead, and what's the other thing we would say? Oh, stick around if you haven't already heard the outro music. Stick around for the outro.
Well, it's the end of the show, the lights are down low. We've had some laughs and now it's time to go. Streaming idiots, delight on display. Hope you enjoyed it. We had fun today. From the very first laugh to the final goodbye, we shared our moments, oh my, oh my. So thank you, it's been a blast. We'll keep the fun rolling, this won't be our last. See you next week, set your reminders. More craziness coming, we're joyful finders. Each week we gather with jokes and smiles, from techie mishaps to quirky styles. Every stream is magic, a little surprise. More than just a show, it's all about the ties. We're a family here, part of your feed, chasing the giggles, fulfilling the need. So thank you, it's been a blast. We'll keep the fun rolling, this won't be our last. See you next week, set your reminders. More craziness coming, we're joyful finders. So grab your popcorn and settle right in. With laughs on the screen, let the fun begin. From the couch or your bed, wherever you be, join us next time, come laugh with glee. We love your comments, your hearts and your cheers. Together we make memories that last through the years. So we wave goodbye, but don't shed a tear. We'll be back next week to bring you more cheer. In this digital age, we're all on a roll. Streaming idiots, it's more than a stroll. Just hit that like and don't you forget. Keep spreading the joy, the fun's not done yet. So thank you, it's been a blast. We'll keep the fun rolling, this won't be our last. See you next week, set your reminders. More craziness coming, we're joyful finders. So here's to the laughter, the joy that we share. With every single moment, we'll always be there. As the curtains close and the credits roll. Thanks, guys, for being part of our soul.